good morning everyone, I hope you're all well. Firstly, apologies there's not been a video for the last couple of weeks. It all coincided with me having to change my car about 3 weeks ago, and after I'd got all that sorted out, it then followed in with my annual sort of holiday away. What I hoped to have done was brought you a little bit of fishing from on the holiday, but weather conditions and the time I had available to do some fishing meant I didn't get any videoing done. So here we are now back. I've been back a couple of days now, and straight away I've been planning to get out for tonight, and it is just after midnight, so it's one of the early starts into fishing into light and early pack-ups today. We're in the middle of June, which means especially with all the weather we're having some really hot weather at the moment, all the beaches are going to be quite busy. So this time of year I'm sort of restricted a bit to early starts, early finishes. The next stage was to start looking at tides and winds and things like that, and I'd originally planned on going on to the North Norfolk beaches, or maybe even the sand at Trimmingham or a Walcott, somewhere like that, but literally every report I'm seeing is saying that they're absolutely choked up with weed, both the normal weed you get on various sessions, but also now we've had the mayweed roll up, and that makes things very difficult once that starts clinging to your line. We had a club match on the Monday, literally the next day after I got back off holiday, and I got my gear together and got down there. We fished Gt Yarmouth, and we fished the boardwalk section, which I'd done in a previous video, and although there wasn't any sort of what I would call standard sort of weed, we did get the May rot at one end of the match, and it became quite uncomfortable with picking it off. And in fact, it got to the stage where I was cutting the leader and retying it after sliding off the knotted weed that you couldn't get off. So yeah, looking at all the reports for North Norfolk, it meant it was a no-go. So what I've decided to do, I'm heading back down Yarmouth, but I'm going to fish a completely different tide to what I did on Monday. On Monday, we actually fished from the bottom, and we fished the flood all the way up for the duration of our match, which was 3.5 hours, and that meant that we didn't even reach the top of the tide. Now, other reports have said that the weed was a problem on the flood, but then it disappeared again on the ebb. So that is the plan for tonight. I've got a 3 a.m. high tide, and I'm hoping to be there fishing by 1 a.m. So I'm going to fish the last couple of hours of the flood, and then maybe 3 or 4 hours of the ebb. And fingers crossed, that might throw up a few fish, and it may also be better as regards to the May rot. Now just about arriving into Caister. About another 10 minutes I'll be at the North Beach, and the area I'm going to fish is up by the holiday camp. It's the extreme far end of Gt Yarmouth before you get to Caister. We'll be there in about 10 minutes time. Okay, so I've just turned off the main road into Yarmouth from Caister, just after the Yarmouth Stadium, and I'll head down to the front, and when I get to the front, instead of turning right and heading up to the boardwalk, I'm going to turn left and drive right down to what they call the holiday camp end, and you've got some parking down there, all free parking. There is a couple of little boxes that are permit holders. That's only like 2 or 3 cars lengths long. The rest of the parking down here is all free. And then it's a question of making my way across the boardwalk over to the beach. So what I'm going to do down is go down to the very bottom, turn around and get parked up. Okay, I've made my way across the beach, less than 5-minute walk across the boards to get to the very edge of the dunes there, step down, and about another 50 yards and you're on the beach. I've set up just to the left of the boardwalk. So like I say, I've got the 13.8 tournament bows, multiplier reels as usual, £15 main line, £7 shock leaders, and I'm just going to start off with a simple pulley rig, two O's, one circle, one J hook. I've got with me tonight various selection of baits, some kindly donated by the laughing policeman Carl. Thank you very much for the crab left over from Monday night. I'll see if I can put it to good use for you. I've also got some squid, I've got some hermits, I've got a little bit of fish there just in case I maybe want to try for a ray later on, and I've also got some a few worms left over again from Monday. So first job is now bait it up with, probably put a crab on there for starters, and I'll get this out and we'll get fishing. Okay, I've now got my first cast out. I've baited it up with crab on that little panel on the pulley, and I'll put that out 50-60 yards I suppose. And what I did was walked a little way up tide and then cast a little bit to my left as well. As I said, it's fairly deep on this part of the coast, and you get quite a strong tide pull, so if you go out too far, not only have you got more chance of picking up the weed, but it would also probably pull you around. I've got 7-ounce lead on there at the moment, which I always start with here. I've actually got a take, I think. If it's not a take, it's weed. The ratchet's going. So let's have a quick look, just in case. I didn't see the tip go. Potentially is just weed, but I'll give that a check. It's only been out 5 minutes, if that. As I say, ratchet on down here. Oof. Can't feel anything actually pulling back. But yes, unfortunately here's the start of that May rot. It's already up the line. This happened on Monday, and I actually cut the leader off several times because I just couldn't get it through the rings. Couldn't get it off, and there it is. It's quite a pain when it happens, because not really much you can do about it. What I tend to do is slide it down to the leader, cut it and retie it. It's just almost impossible to pick off this stuff. There's quite a bit of it as well, and that's what builds up on the line and eventually pulls you out at the bottom. So I'll deal with this and get back to you. Okay, for anyone who hasn't seen May rot before, this is what it actually looks like once it's come up the line. And what I've done, it's normally in little small blobs all up the line, and I've had to slide it all the way down to the leader knot there. And I find the best way to deal with this, you're never going to pick that off it'll take you half an hour to pick that off. So I just cut the leader knot and retie it. That's a much simpler way of getting back in the water. That's what I'm going to do now. I've just done my second bait change. It stayed out there a little bit longer this time, and there weren't quite as much mayweed on it when it come back. So I still had to cut the leader knot. It was a piece about 2 inches long, but try as I will, I could not get it off. So I've rebaited up. This one's got a peeler crab on again. I'm alternating between the peeler crab and a whole mini squid each cast. If that weed does ease off completely, I might consider putting the second rod out. I much prefer to fish a single rod, to be fair, and put all my concentration on that. Nothing to report so far, no bites or no signs of anything. So the first crab bait I brought back had been sort of mullered by probably more crabs. It had been chewed up well and truly, but the squid I just brought back was virtually intact, so I'm not quite sure what's going on out there. We're just about now approaching high tide. And fingers crossed that weed disappears and a few fish start appearing on the ebb. That's what I hope will happen anyway. Right, time for another routine bait change. No signs of anything still. We're just about starting to get the first part of the daybreak now. So, this little mini squid bait ready to go on there. Let's see what the old weed situation's like. Feel too bad, it comes straight off the bottom. There's not too much weed on this one. I'm going to start putting it out a little bit further now. I've got little bits and pieces coming down there now. Nothing too serious. Oh, it's almost gone there. Just a tiny little bit. There's a little bit more there on the leader knot. I've got about 2 inches again. Like I say, it's still going to be a cut the leader off because it's the easiest way. Got a tiny little bit of mayweed on the top of the rig, but that's not too much of a problem. That won't affect the cast. If you leave any of those blobs on the line during the cast, they can hit a ring and just blow your reel up. So definitely don't try and attempt to cast with any may rot on your reel. On the rig there, it's not too bad. Let's give this a bit more of a chuck this time. But as we haven't had no interest so far, let's go a little bit further. See if that makes any difference. It might mean that I pick up too much tide, too much weed, just get swept away, but it's worth a try. That was a mistake throwing that out there. It's either a fish or it's got caught up in the tide with all the weed. Let's have a look. I've been clicking away for a couple of minutes. It's well to the right, but that might have been where I put it. Let's have a look. Feels a little bit heavy. Oh, unless it's clogged up with loads of weed. It definitely feels like there's something on there. It might just be weed. Interesting. Can't feel it thumping at all. I've just seen something drop off. That was a big clod of weed just dropped off. And here comes the may rot. So building up in the ring now at the tip. And no, it's just a washing line full of weed. So back to going inside, I think, close. Because this is a real, well, I've got to the leader, it is a real washing line. Oh, I have got a fish. Little dogfish on there. Yeah. A little doggy, but obviously, oh no, it's a little smoothhound. And it is small as well. Let's just take the rig off of there so I don't get all that tangled up. So, there we go. A tiny baby smoothhound, but it did actually get a good indication, and the ratchet went, but there is an absolute ton of weed, so I think you have to sort of balance it out, how much weed you want to be clearing off when you're chucking it out a distance. But let's get him back and sort this lot out. That's definitely going to be cut off, that one. Right, that wasn't so bad in the end, because that massive great clod of weed was all the what we call like the normal loose weed, not the mayweed. So it just pinged off, but underneath there was the normal 2-inch line of mayweed which had to be cut off again. But that is now back out, baited up with a crab this time, and I've gone virtually the same distance, quite a way out or further than I started, but I've put it much further to the left again, because the tide's still actually pulling to the right. Considering we've gone over the top of the flood, we now should be a little bit of slack water before it ebbs, but it's still pulling to the right, so compensated by casting left. So while we're waiting for that to develop into something, what I'll quickly do now is just go through the location. As I said before, I'm right up the very far end of the north beach of the actual Gt Yarmouth, and it's opposite the 2 holiday camps that are up here. Free parking, all but a couple of bays. And now we're mid-June. The target species here today is going to be mainly Smoothounds and Rays. You will get inevitably dogfish. And on Monday night we also had, funnily enough, as the tide started to really rip through, we started to get in some really decent sized whiting, 30 centimetres plus. And there was quite a few of those caught on Monday, so they weren't sort of fluke individuals, there was a lot of them about. But yeah, predominantly Smoothounds and the Rays. Baits, now they've been coming out on squid and crab, the Smoothounds, and you'll also get the Rays on that. If you can get hold of any fresh herring, that will also give you a better chance of catching a ray. I haven't got any with me today. I've literally got some crab, a little bit of worm and some squid. I think I have got a mackerel fillet in there somewhere, so I might, once it gets a little bit lighter, put maybe a fillet of that with some squid for a ray, see if we can pick up a ray. So as I said before, the tide can really rip through here, and it's fairly deep close in, so you have to use the tackle accordingly. There are some local lads swear by using heavy duty braid, i.e. 60 or 70 or 80 pound braid straight through with no leader, and what they're saying is even if that weed turns up, with the nature of the braid, it can saw through a lot of that weed. You're still going to get the may rock clinging to it, I believe, but I think you can almost like saw it off between your fingers easier than you can with mono. It's not something I like doing. I much prefer to use mono all the time. I've had a few little experiments with braid, and I didn't really get on with it, to be fair. So yeah, beef up your tackle. Rigs wise, if you're going for the rays and the hounds, I'd probably say something like a pulley or up and over or something. But saying that, the fair share of hounds and rays do also come on things like 2-up flappers. I don't think it matters too much if you can get that bait presented where they are, they'll take it, no matter what rig you've got on. Leads can be up to 7 ounces. As I say, I started on a 7. I've left it on there at the moment because it is pulling. I always fish as light as I can get away with, really, because that helps when they trip it out the bottom and move it. It helps to hook them, especially in the flow. But today, say I've started off with a 7 because it's what I finished off with on Monday night. Went right up to a 7, just to hold bottom. If you do have a problem with weed, just keep reducing your range, coming closer and closer. Some of those rays during the week last week were caught 15-20 yards out, so you don't have to be too far out, and that will also help. You'll be collecting a lot less weed the closer you fish. Definitely. That, my friends, is a hound, I believe. Look at the drag. Oh, nice going. Get the drag set right, but I like to have a little bit, just in case it does give it the big one in the edge. It's going well in that current. Don't feel like a bad fish, this. Kicking well. Doesn't feel like a hound though now. Could be a ray, this. And just literally lifted itself into that tide. Feels alright anyway, no matter what. I'm well down tide now. It could be a hound. It's moving quite quickly. I'm going to have to do a runner in a minute to go and get that. That's going to be on the beach up there. See you in a minute. The good news is the weeds nearly all disappeared. There's hardly anything on there. Let's get that in there. Get the hook out if I can. There you go. That's a little bit better. That took the crab. Hang on, the dog's coming out to have a look. That took the crab, that one. And pulled the rod right over. It felt a lot bigger than it is actually, but there you go. Are you alright? Yeah, it's a fish, I know. Mazes, isn't it? Right, I've got another crab bait ready now, so I'm going to switch it over as that last one come on a crab. Hopefully that weed has dropped out now on the head. And I'll make it a little bit more comfortable fishing. I might have to cut that leader off now. Still a little bit coming through, but I'm almost got to the leader there, so it's just that little bit on the leader. I've got to watch that. That's just about manageable there. Yeah, it come through some grass or something out there. It's all over the lead. Set that again. Change that for a crab bait. I think you can still catch them on squid, but I think the better ones do take the crab. So while we've got some crabs here, thanks Carl, I'll fish crab as much as possible. See that one on there. Okay. So proper light now, first light is around about just before 4 o'clock in the morning. Just before 4 AM. Now it's got a little tap on there then. I just had a little nudge. We'll see if that develops into something. Keep getting odd little taps on that. It might be weed collecting, so I'm going to give it its regular change. I think if you leave it out there too long, it can get swamped. Clear the ring. Sun's just about to make an appearance over there. It's got A bit of cloud around at the moment this morning, but according to the forecast, it ain't gonna last long. I'm going to try the next bait up is a mackerel strip and squid cocktail, just in case there's a ray sniffing about. They do like a little bit of fish like that. I've also got a raw prawn to try as well in a minute. I will give all these baits a try. You never know, one day one's good and the next day it's something else. In front of me there, just in line with that tower, that's where the end of the boardwalk finishes, and my car's parked just to the left of that tower there. So less than a 5-minute walk and you're onto the beach. Past the dunes, you're onto pure sand, and then you've got a little bit of shingle right near the edge, and as you can see, it's quite a massive expanse of beach here. I don't think you'll ever be able to come down here and not be able to get in, and we've got the same the other way, and then it just leans out a bit at the end there. That point there is a caster. There's one other chap, as you can see, fishing right down the bottom there, and that's the other holiday camp over there. Sunrise in full effect now, and about time for another bait change. I've got the raw prawn's not going on next. I've got the mackerel and squid cocktail to go on, potentially for a ray. So it looks like it's bent over a bit, so there's going to be some weed on there. Someone's come down for a swim by the looks of it. Bugger that. I think the shock would kill me. Blimey. I don't want to speak too soon, but there's not a bit of weed on that at all. That's good. Let's just clean that lead. And let's get that cocktail out. That's nice, the weeds disappeared anyway. A little bit further this time, getting a bit braver as we go on. Ratchet on, drag off. Right, time's ticking away now. It's just gone 5:30. So I've only had a couple of small inquiries which didn't amount to nothing since that last Smoothound. I did actually think it might kick off then, they might get one or two. It was right on first light, but no. That's been really quite quiet. Yeah, so if you come here and you're getting pestered by that weed, all you can do really is come in closer, fish in closer, and then as the weed drops off, which it will do on one tide or the other, it normally does. If you get it on the flood, you don't get it on the ebb, and vice versa. So yeah, just come in closer until the weed slackens off, then you can go out a little bit further again and fish properly. So what I'm probably going to do now is, I'll see this bait through. This one will take me up to around 6. I'll probably do one more bait up, and then look to probably be packing up at 6:30 and getting on my way home. Okay, with that mayweed now getting thick again and making it hard work, my last cast is out now, and I'm going to start putting a bit of gear away. It does show you the potential of this place. I would have thought once you got one hound, you could have got 2 or 3 there in very quick succession. Didn't really happen today, but there you go. Doesn't always go to plan. Managed to cut a tiny little one and a half decent one, so I can't really complain. Hopefully from this week onwards now I can get back to sort of a normal routine and get more regular videos again. Now the holiday's out the way, the car's sorted, should be back to fairly normal. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. So this is the parking zone. You've got all this free parking on the side of the road, and the only exclusion is this little box here. There's a permit holder's a box, and then there's a bus stop and there's yellow lines either side of the bus stop. So from there it's a quick walk down to the tower, and that's the access onto the beach. Okay, so come from the car there, you come along this footpath, come to these gates here, and there's a little gate there where you can get through, down the concrete, and then you're onto that boardwalk. And that boardwalk will then take you all the way over through the dunes to within about 50 feet of the beach. So really nice, easy access, decent free parking, not too bad at all.